Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh, hi. I'm reading through the participant list and I'm just so excited to see everybody. Well, it's about 3 minutes past the hour. We have a lot jam-packed in for the next 4 hours, which is good, which is good. It's going to be good. It's going to be exciting. And again, I'm so glad that you are joining us. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And with that, let's start with me, right? I'm here, I'm talking. So let me introduce a little bit about myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Ark Telos Saint Amor. It is a very long name, so most folks call me Tay. My mandatory pronouns are they, them, their. But I am the executive director of Youth Move National and also co-chair of the planning committee For You page around this event. And I'm super excited to be here. I'm going to put an asterisk onto all of this, and I'm going to be transparent and vulnerable. So, yesterday I had a computer disaster, y'all, a computer disaster. I was on an event like this, and my screen turned absolutely black, and I could see nothing. And so I ran around for the next 8 hours trying to find someone to fix my computer, and they could not. So I am on a loaner laptop that I have no idea how to work and function. And then I got sick last night. So that's all to say. I come before you today excited, energized, and really truly humbled at everyone being here and all of your expertise. And I'm a little sick and I'm functioning off of some technology that I'm not used to. So I just hope that you will give me some grace and patience today as we sort of like lead you through the next 4 hours of what is going to be awesome, I assure you. So let me start with some light housekeeping. First of all, from emojis, thumbs up, nods, anything, can y'all hear and see me okay? Yes, okay. And I love the emojis on Zoom, y'all, far more now because they just like pop up everywhere. It's like the thumbs are everywhere. I love it. It's making me feel better. It's making me feel better already. Okay, so I'm glad everyone can see and hear me. I usually have a filter on too, so it's a little weird to see my face, el natural, right? But again, I appreciate your patience. So let me share firstly just a little bit about Youth Move National. That's the place in which I'm the executive director of. And Youth Move National is actually a partner organization on this event along with For You page. So don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this, but let me just read our vision statement to you. Youth Move National. And for folks who don't know that move, it stands for motivating others through voices of experience, envisions a future in which young people are valued as empowered leaders, advocates, and designers of communities that are built for all youth to thrive. Now, I place an emphasis on all youth thriving because, as we know, disproportionately, not all youth get to thrive. You know, especially globally, we deal with a lot of different issues that are really, they collaborate, right? They're symbiotic. They connect all of us, right? We all struggle with climate change. We all struggle with political authoritarianism in some places, right? And all of that, a lot of times, disproportionately affects marginalized youth, right? And so, even though Youth Move National focuses on the US, the United States of America, we try to focus on all youth, in particularly those folks who are marginalized. And I'm just so proud to lead our amazing team. In a lot of ways, our team leads me. They are that phenomenal, and our chapter network and all of the youth in which we serve. We're actually entirely youth led and youth driven, which is phenomenal. All my bosses are youth, the majority of our staff are youth, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And with that being said, let me talk a little bit about foryoupage.org, because talking about being youth led and driven, that's For You page all of the way, right? Only they're international, right? Actually, the vast majority of folks joining us today are international, so outside of the US. And I'm just super excited about it. Y'all, foryoupage.org centers on youth mental health, who we know that there's an epidemic. We know that it's in crisis. and it focuses on youth mental health from a global perspective, which I just think is just so brilliant and so beautiful. And that's what we're here to do today, right? We're here to move beyond just awareness, right? We all know that there is a crisis globally around youth mental health. We know that it exists. So how do we move beyond awareness into action, right? So even the title of our event, in which you're here right now with me in, is Beyond Awareness, Taking Action for Youth Mental Health. And that's what we're really here to do today with our amazing speakers and all of the folks who are joining us. Now, before I get, speaking of amazing speakers, into our first keynote, I do just want to thank a lot of folks. First, let me start with thanking our organizing committee. Y'all, they have put tireless, tireless hours in. I mean, we have folks calling in at like 1 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning at some of our meetings. These folks truly have been working hard for almost the past year to bring this into fruition for you, right? Really, really intensely, at least in the last 6 months. So I just want to thank my co-chair, Dr. O. I see you. Oh my gosh, you're phenomenal. Thank you, Dr. O, for all of the work that you put into this. Elena. Oh, I love you, Elena. Thank you. And Elena's going to help host the second half of this meeting. It's going to be great. Elena's going to be fantastic. Connor is our sweetheart. We love you, Connor. Thank you so much for all of the work that you've done. Connor did some amazing thing with some of our partner organizations. We have a raffle later on today, which I'm super excited about. And Connor was amazing enough to help set up some products with Rare Beauty. And it's just amazing. So thank you, Connor. Joanna. Joanna's the best. I work with Joanna like almost every day. We partner a lot with Youth Move National, and I just love Joanna. Ronit has helped us so much with operations too, so really appreciate you, Ronit. And then Judah, I'm saving you for last because Judah is not only a part of our organizing team and has just worked so hard on making this event as amazing it's going to be, but Judah is actually our keynote and is up next. But first, I do want to just also thank our organizational partners as well, just so they make sure that they hear us, they see us. Oh, y'all have helped us out so much. Youth Power Project, amazing. I know Sanvi is here. Excited to hear from them later today. Letters to Strangers, right? They're making mental health personal through human connection, which is so important. That's a big part of what I think Youth Move National does, For You Page does internationally. What all of our partner organizations do, it's about connection, right? It's about being youth-led and youth-driven, connecting as peers one-to-one to move this work forward. And I just believe that that's so powerful and important, that connection piece. I also want to thank iMind, right? They're connecting the mind and the body together, right? As it should be. I also want to thank Mentally Resilient Youth Network and Youth Move National, who is also a partner organization. Okay, y'all, I have been talking. My throat hurts already. You don't want to hear from me. You'll want to hear from Judah, right? I want to hear from Judah at least, because Judah is our first keynote speaker and is just, again, y'all are in for a treat. If you don't know Judah, you're about to. So let me share a little bit about Judah and just introduce him. So Judah is a youth mental health advocate and system strategist with expertise in community mobilization, policy engagement, and program design at the intersections of mental health, youth development, and climate resilience. Oh, I love that, climate resilience. He has led and supported large-scale youth-focused initiatives, training over 700, you are not mishearing me, 700 youth leaders across Kenya to strengthen their peer support networks. Oh, I'm sure y'all love peer support as much as I love me, and build inclusive, community-based mental health systems. Judah draws on personal lived experience and background in information technology to design culturally relevant mental health responses, leveraging storytelling, digital platforms, and creative arts to promote psychosocial well-being. I mean, Judah is fancy. This bio is fancy. And it deserves to be, because Judah is awesome and does some amazing things. I'm just like in awe just reading this. His work spans program development, stakeholder engagement, strategic partnerships, and advocacy with a focus on translating research and lived realities into policy and practice. And y'all, that's what we're here to do today, right? To move beyond awareness, move beyond that research, right? Utilize it, the importance of it, but how do we put that into policy? How do we put that into practice? And y'all, Judah is out there doing it day to day in real time. He has represented youth at global platforms, including the United Nations Civil Society Conference, right? We got to thank the United Nations Science Summit. That's what sort of started to put us together at this time and place, right? So Judah's doing some amazing work with the UN. Summit of the Future, and collaborates with international funders and networks to advance equity. Let's not use that word, folks. Equity, so important. We cannot forget about equity in mental health, research, and implementation. Judah also integrates climate consciousness into wellness programs, promoting nature-based approaches to healing. Oof, I'm outside right now. I'm all about nature-based healing. He currently serves as the Programs Development and Implementation Consultant. He is an Origin Global Fellow and Community Solutions Fellow with ongoing contributions. Again, I'm so sorry, I'm so sick. Contributions to global youth mental health programming and policy innovation. So, with that being said, Judah, I would love to welcome you to the stage and honor you as our keynote speaker. Please come in. The stage is yours. Share your brilliance with us.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for preparing all that. And yeah, thank you. I'm just honored. I'd like to acknowledge everyone who has taken their time off to come and really share this moment with us. And I would like to invite you to this space and say that we are all contributing to the global youth mental health space. And given that we are all here, it shows the dedication that's globally acknowledged in terms of we are trying to change the system and we are giving our best and we are doing what we can with what we have. So I'm really honored to be here and I'm looking forward to interacting with everyone and having a very, very great session ahead. So, oh, sorry, there's something on my screen. I can get into it just a little bit and talk a little bit about building community and mental health and reimagining a meaningful youth engagement for global well-being. I will start with my own story, which I always like to share because I feel like all of us have beginnings, and our beginnings really, really showcase where we are at and where we'd like to be. And when I started in this space, I was not called, I'm not one of those people who came out buying and saying that this is where I belong. This started from my own lived experience, and it started from my own community. I remember I was in campus and I went through my own experience. I was living with my roommate at that time. And then I got this to this place. Oh, mind you, I was a person who always knew about youth mental health. I always knew about go seek help when you are feeling low. I was always the person talking about this is what psychology looks like, and this is what we can do as a nation. But then with my own personal lived experience, I did not translate to it having an effect on me. And I always thought that, oh, wow, yeah, mental health challenges can affect someone else. So I did, as a normal African child will do, stayed in the house. And then when I was even sharing with my folks and my parents, and I'm saying, okay, I don't think I'm feeling that well. And I remember a quote from my mom was, just eat something and you'll feel better. And I'm like, okay, I tried that, but I don't think it worked, but it's okay. We'll give it a go. So after a while, after getting to the root of it, after seeking help, after finding help, I was able to go back to campus. And a lot of people, a lot of my classmates thought that, oh wow, Judah is here now, but I thought you were off on leave, or I thought you had deferred this semester. I thought you had gotten employed somewhere. I thought that something else had happened. And every person who asked me where I was at that time, I told they had every other excuse, but mental health was not in that conversation. Unfortunately, during that year is when the suicide rate in my country had skyrocketed in 2018. And we were losing about 4 people in each campus every day, which was quite alarming for us. And I thought, okay, wow, can I just share my story? Can I share it with people where I came from? And probably if somebody is going through the same thing, they will be able to seek help. And that's what I did. I stood up at one of the biggest campus events and shared that this is my story, this is what I went through. And if you need any help, if you need somebody to guide you and lead you through the whole process, please reach out to me. It was a wonder for me to see 150 people reach out on WhatsApp on that very same day. And that started my journey. But I wouldn't say that my journey has been simple. It has been full of trying to innovate, mistakes, falling and redesigning again, co-creating again, seeing what has worked, seeing what has not worked. But then you'd ask me, Judah, what does this have to do with community mental health? What your speech or what you had talked to us about was about community mental health. This introduction was because you and I make up our society. You and I make up our community. And without the nuance of that lived experience, without the nuance of how my mother saw me going through my depressive phase in campus, how I see someone else going through maybe their bipolar journey, how I see someone else doing all that. That is what determines my response, my reaction to it. So for community, what I define a community as is all of us together with a diverse perspective and with the different outlooks in life. And for meaningful engagement to happen, I consider a blend of three experiences. And this is what we do at where I founded an organization called Integrative Wellbeing. And these were the three blended experiences from our journey back in campus to suicide prevention programs, to preventative programs, to mental health promotive programs. We sat down and we saw that we can't address youth mental health or mental health as a whole without blending these three experiences together. And the first one is obviously lived experience, which we refer to as the personal and first-hand experiences of individuals who have faced mental health challenges, distress, or trauma. And they include people who have experienced mental health conditions, received psychiatric services, or navigated recovery journeys. This experience is not theoretic or academic. It's the real personal story of navigating mental health, mental illness, or psychosocial disabilities. Individuals with lived experience often become peer supporters, advocates, or co-designers in mental health services. Their perspectives are crucial for developing user-centered care, policies, and systems that reflect the actual needs of those affected. The second prong that we put on of experience is learned experience. And this refers to the knowledge or insights gained through training and education. These are the knowledge and insights gained through training, education, or exposure to mental health environments and issues. They include formal education, e.g., psychology, psychiatry, social work, and professional practice. But another arm of learned experience, because we value professionalism in the mental health field, but another arm of learned experience is also all these other degrees that can bring in nuance, that can bring in a lot of wealth in how we understand our world. Something like architecture, how do I live with nature? Something like medicine, the medical practice itself, how does my body connect to my mind and what can I do about it? So learned experience is all this academic qualification that we have a very, very, very big platform for, and most of us, if not all right now, are educated in one way or another. So while valuable, learned experience can be limited without the integration of lived experience perspectives. But then the third one now is where we encompass. You may ask me, okay, I know the lived experience, I know learned experience, but where do I put in that person who sells me groceries? Where do I put in my neighbor? And this is where we come to the third prong, which we call shared experience. And this refers to a common or overlapping emotional, psychological, or situational experiences among individuals or groups. And it becomes a bonding agent in peer support, group therapy, or community healing. This shared experience builds empathy, trust, and mutual understanding amongst individuals with similar journeys, and they form the foundation of peer support programs where individuals recovering from mental health challenges support others or who are in a similar path. This is where culture comes in and steps in, because when we are talking about shared experience, we're talking about the wisdom. The wisdom. I remember receiving stories about my particular culture in my country and how they will deal with people who were considered to have what we consider right now to be mental health challenges. Those are their shared experience, the cultural approaches. Some may be harmful, but some were useful, because I can give an example of if somebody had voices in their head. I know of a culture where that was considered a spiritual gift, and you were put under the tutelage of somebody who was considered a spiritual mentor. But right now, when we hear somebody is hearing voices, we can say, oh, wow, you need to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. And we are not giving them a sense of belonging. We're actually outing him from our community. But their shared experience now brings in what worked in your case, what is working in the medical case, the medical model, and what is working with the learned knowledge that we have, and how can we combine them together to create that meaningful engagement. This three-pronged approach was designed from a three-legged stool. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a stool that's very common in many African homes with the three legs. And what it leads to is when we combine the lived experience, the learned experience, and the shared experience, then we have a foundation that we can work on, a good foundation that we have built to already share and collaborate in this approach. And while land experience is evidence-based practice and has professional boundaries, there are very good key things in each type of experience. And for the land one, you have evidence-based practice. So we are holding out that care, and we are respecting the values that are bringing from somebody who's coming to seek help from us. And we can be able to show them that this is how it has worked, and walk through that journey with them. It also offers us structure, accountability, and consistency because of the professional boundaries, but it also builds systemic understanding. How do we get to refer someone to a psychologist? How do we get to escalate that to a psychiatrist? How do we get to diagnose illnesses? So land experience has this good nuance, and it also helps us in skill development. It enables practitioners to build their skills in assessment, diagnosis, communication, and therapeutic techniques. And it leads to multidisciplinary collaboration. As I was talking about earlier, like we can combine things. We know nature-based approaches work. We know that clinical approaches work. So how do we provide nature-based therapy where we can both influence the outcome of the result? And for the lived experience, the importance of it is it uh, it grounds us in authenticity and empathy, and it offers a very deep personal insight to what mental illness, recovery, or stigma feels like, something no textbook can provide. And then it improves the service relevance. It helps center person-centered services, ensuring that programs reflect the real needs and the languages and the feeling and the intensity of the service user, what they're feeling at that moment. And then it stigmatizes like mental health, because a lot of places, if I was to ask you what was mental health in your language before the creation of awareness, what does it look like? And it helps us to allow us to challenge the stereotypes. It also empowers the individual, because the story belongs to you, and you have a right to your own well-being. And it helps you come to the forefront and discuss it with us. For the shared experience now, what it does and what we are finding, I don't know if you're finding this in your communities, is that in as much as we are campaigning and the stigma, overall mental health stigma is going down, self-stigma is one of the biggest things that we are still facing. Because in as much as the communities are telling us, go seek help, we are here to support you, when a person is then diagnosed or is experiencing a mental health challenge, because of maybe the lack of resources or the stretching of the government resources, or the lack of the support structures in place, we tend to see that a lot of people are not seeking the help that they need. And this is where shared experience comes in. We cannot recover alone. We know as a society, we know as a community, we need each other. So for the shared experience, somebody may be somewhere and they will not know what to be able to, they wouldn't know, oh, sorry, my video is going off. They I have heard of a story where somebody wants to really ask, like, how can I be able to support my cousin who has been diagnosed with this, but you don't want to offend them. So the shared experience supports that creative blend of knowledge. Even if you don't have that academic background or you do not have that lived experience background, you have a background of living in our community where people are recovering, where people are experiencing their life, so you can come and contribute to that conversation. And with that, it reduces isolation. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, which is very vital for our mental health recovery. It also builds peer solidarity, which fosters trust and connection among people with common backgrounds, trauma, or identity. Then it supports collective healing, especially powerful in communities affected by conflict, displacement, discrimination, or systemic trauma. And it enhances peer-led programs where, because the shared experience allow for peer mentors to support the groups to feel safe, accessible, and empowering. If you've gone through something before, it allows you to share it out with the next person, to be able to take someone under your wing. Remember the example I was giving of a person hearing voices, and they were given to a spiritual healer back in the community back in the past, before all the medical model came in. Then with the peer mentors, it allows us to do the same. I have gone through this. I can understand what you're going through right now, but I also need you to share it with me so that I can support you in the best way that you need to be supported. And most of all, what I love about this, it promotes engagement and belonging. It encourages people to stay in programs, return for support, and eventually contribute back to the society. So we are giving a person a sense of belonging, and we are giving a person a sense of purpose, because no matter who you are welcome to the conversation that we are having about well-being and our mental health. But then you might tell me that, okay, Judah, I hear what you're saying, but how does this really apply in person? And how I answer to that is, all theory and no practice makes Jack a dull implementer. So when you're going through these three things, I want to just give us a quick tips, because I also see my time is kind of running out. Quick tips on how to involve the three-pronged experiences: the lived experience, the learned experience, and the shared experience. So for the lived experience, I'll start with the learned experience, sorry. We can now break down complex concepts and use youth-friendly formats like animations, games, zines, or workshops to teach mental health theory or policy. A powerful example of this was it was last year in Kenya. If you've not heard about us protesting about the finance bill, a lot of people knew that it's gonna be harmful, but a lot didn't have that accounting background, to really break it down to concepts. And that's what the accountancy came. And we were like, okay, as young people, we're feeling this anxiety and this pressure, but the accountants then helped us to break it down and say, this is why this thing feels like pressure to you. This is what will happen. These are the effects that we're going to feel. So we all knew what we felt, but those concepts were very helpful for a land experience perspective, from someone who's in a different field to come and break it down for us. And then what does that allow? It allows youth-led research. So a lot of young people with land experience now can be able to say, okay, how does mental health affect my saving culture? How does mental health affect how my mental health affect how I'm going to build, where I want to stay, and how can I merge this all into one and into supportive structures that work for me? It also helps with mentorship programs where we can pair mental health professionals or public health experts to co-develop solutions and expand their knowledge base. So all this different land experience can be combined and be included in the research. And it allows us to teach back. There's no point in gaining all this knowledge and then working in silos. So if we're able to teach back, if we're able to combine our land experiences and then be able to ask, how does this benefit our nation? How does this benefit the community I'm in? Then you can be able to have feedback sessions or workshops to translate what everyone has learned into actionable points where we can all contribute. And for lived experience, how can we include it? How do we really meaningfully make it happen? It allows us to co-create programs involving the youth with lived experiences from the get-go, from designing, implementing, to evaluating mental health services or campaigns. It allows us to tell stories Allow people with lived experience to tell stories, create those safe spaces, create those events, blogs, short films, or forums where youth can share their personal stories without judgment or tokenism. And then there is one which is contentious, but it depends on how you do it. Allowing advisory boards and panels from youth experience advisory boards that consult regularly on program development. Keep yourself accountable in any effort that you're doing. Or if you're a person with lived experience, join an advisory board. Tell them that this is what is working, this is not what's not working. And then it allows us to upskill. So people with lived experiences, because there's this saying in Swahili, a person who wears the shoe is the one who knows where the shoe hurts. So as long as a person has this wealth of knowledge and in-depth knowledge, it can allow us to train youth peer advocates and grow that skill, package it into a way where we can give back to the community and upskill them to actually be able to handle programs in their own communities. And then for shared knowledge, as I wrap up, what shared experiences allow us to do is build that community in itself. So we can do peer circles and support groups, establishing youth-led safe spaces for mutual listening, support, and solidarity. And then we can create creative expression spaces where we are using art, dance, storytelling, and movement as tools for reflecting on shared experience and surfacing insights. Then we can have participatory action where we run mapping sessions or storytelling circles where youth explore shared mental health challenges in their environments, like school, home, or social media, and propose collective actions. Then we can have, and this is a very important one, intergenerational dialogue, where we bring together different generations with shared experiences to co-create intergenerational healing models that work for our own communities. And we have a myriad examples of the peer mentorship models that train older or slightly older youth with the more with who have more experience in coping with their world. And then you pair them with mentors and also you pair them with the upcoming youth, and it creates a continuous support chain. So my call out and what I'd love you to get from this is that we should honor all three experiences equally, and we don't overvalue expert knowledge at the expense of lived experiences and the community wisdom, our societal wisdom. And we should ensure emotional safety, especially when we are sharing things that are quite challenging. And sometimes it's not the easiest thing to seek help and get to a point of seeking help. So we should ensure this emotional safety where we are not causing more harm, but we are there to support people when they need us. And then we should practice co-leadership, because if we're integrating these three types of lived experiences, the lived, learned, and shared, then we have to create a format where we both lead, where we all lead, and nothing is overvalued at the expense of the other. And with that, I'd love to share a story. I talked about storytelling. Yes, thank you, Joanna. So there was this community, I'll go really quick in it. There was this community where an NGO went, and it was an arid community, think in the depths of Africa, in the middle of the Sahara. And they saw a lake where the community used to walk thousands of miles to get, oh, not thousands, at least like 2 to 5 kilometers to get some water from. And then what would you do as a donor? They came and then they were able to funnel the water to the village itself. And a lot of people clapped. People got good pictures. People were smiling, using the tap for the first time, getting all these problems away. But then looking back, when the donor came for the monitoring and evaluation, they found that the tap was destroyed in the community. And then they had to ask themselves, why? And judging upon it, it's the community itself that broke the tap, because in the morning, when the women were going to fetch water, they would catch up and tell the stories of last night about, this is what my husband did, this is what my partner did last week, this is what I want to do next week, and get their advice each other. They get that gossip out in the community. In the afternoon, when the children were going to do when the children were going to fetch water, then they will go and talk about, this is what my mom did, this is what my dad did, this is the punishment I got. You remember us climbing that tree that we were told not to climb? My mother knows, so your mother will probably know when you're getting back. In the evening, when the dads were going to feed their own cows, it was the same case, peer support. So yes, a solution was created. Yes, we brought a tap in. Yes, we brought water in, but we did not capture the context that the community needed that process, that journey to get the waterfall. So you can create a very beautiful, elaborate solution that works, but if you don't ground it in the community needs, then you're causing more harm and you're creating more trouble for the community that you're serving in. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for listening to me, and thank you so much. Hand it back to Ak.
Judah, I feel like you passed it back way too quickly, because like I am just sitting here like legit absorbing every word. Your brilliance has been phenomenal, and I'm just like processing all of this amazing information, all of the things that you shared, your story, and you're just like, okay, you're heading it back to ARC. I'm like, what? I'm not ready. I want to hear you keep talking. Oh gosh. Let's take a breath, y'all. Maybe we just pause. Let's do a breath in through the nose. Hold it. Exhale. Do it one more time. Let's breathe in through the nose. In. Hold. And then exhale through the mouth. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that felt good. And I can barely do that right now. Oh my gosh. Oh, Judah, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much. I'm still stuck on that analogy about the person wearing the shoe. And the person wearing what the shoe is going to go where the shoe hurts or where the shoe feels good. And that just like I've been like thinking about that so much, as well as your own story and being able to be so vulnerable with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And just everything you shared, I just think, one, brilliant, but two, is actually a perfect segue into what we're going to do next, right? As I shared a little bit, this whole thing sort of started centered around the UN Science Summit, which is why we're sort of doing it at this time of year. And so we wanted to bring in some of that magic from the UN and kind of get into a little bit of what they're doing. So for our next keynote, and Judah, don't go anywhere because you are on this panel, so you're going to hear more from Judah in a moment. We're going to transition into really focusing on the United Nations Science Summit. And this portion is called Community and Mental Health, Reimagining Meaningful Youth Engagement for Global Well-Being. So let me share first just a little bit about my story. I will be moderating this session, and I just feel so inspired by Judah sharing his story. Just to let a little bit about folks know about me, I am a person who comes from immense lived and living experience. I usually tell folks I was born into social justice. I was born into being systems impacted. I was born in the United States of America, but my biological parents were Mexican Native Indigenous, and they were deported when I was born. So I kind of was born into systems, being out of the child welfare system, foster care system. And I will be honest, I was not always placed with the most loving and caring adults, right? Matter of fact, I would say I was kind of placed with some of the opposite. And so some of that trauma, I'm going to use some big words, violence, abuse, really shaped me early on. And it shaped me into not being able to trust, quite honestly, systems and adults who ran those systems. And so, really sort of desperate for a change, I just lived on the streets. So I spent a lot of my life couch surfing, living with friends, traveling, living in cars, vans, living out of the places in which I worked, and living quite literally on the streets. And through just a desperation to find love and community and peers and affirmation, I ended up joining a gang. So I joined a street gang. And as a disabled queer and trans person of color, we don't often talk, at least in the United States perspectives, the values of gangs. If I can say that, such a thing, the value, maybe let me rephrase that, the purpose of sometimes why gangs exist, right? We tend to associate it just with violence and illegal activity and like, oh, those are so bad. But a lot of times gangs are existing from a need of safety, a need of economic security, a name of of stability around resources, whether that's food or housing, and a need for affirmation and community that's often sometimes kind of lacked in underserved, under-resourced, and marginalized communities. And so that's what I was able to find, at least for a little bit. For me, those things faded into the bad aspects, into violence, into those things that long term just not were healthy for me. And so, in addition to doing that and everything I went through, I started to develop co-occurring serious mental illness and substance use disorder, all things that continue with me today. I'll be honest, I'm really struggling this morning. I'm on here with you. I've got my notes pulled up. I think I'm doing okay, but because I'm not at my computer, it's so activating to my mental health that I'm really struggling to get through. And that's a lot of what I was happening in my youth. And that was until I found the power of peer support and finding other youth, finding other peers who got it, who understood what it was like to go in and out of these systems, to experience that violence, to be similar to me as a disabled queer and trans person of color within the United States of America, and what that means was so deeply powerful and meaningful to me. And it helped me in ways in which systems and adults never did. So, to bring us full circle, when we are talking about the power of peers, the power of meaningful youth engagement and connecting internationally, globally around youth mental health, I have to tell you from my own lived and living experience, it's powerful. It's literally life saving. I would not be around today if it was not for the power of youth peer support and folks who got it, folks similar to me who understand how mental health works. And so the purpose of our panel today is to really talk about that, is to really talk about how the future of youth mental health isn't just designed for young people, although let me rephrase, it shouldn't just be designed for young people. It needs to be designed by them, right? Oftentimes we hear this phrase like, youth are our future. Yes, youth are our future, but youth are our now, and youth are our past. The brilliance of youth and everything that we bring needs to be centered. That needs to be the thing in which we design systems for, by. It needs to always be for us, by us. Nothing about us without us. And that's what we're here to talk about. So this session moves beyond theory to showcase how community-based youth-led initiatives are creating culturally relevant and sustainable. That's really important. Sustainability. How do we keep this going? Mental health solutions. So we're going to explore now with our speakers how placing youth at the center of program design, peer support, and advocacy is key to fostering true global well-being. So I'll be your moderator for this session, but I want to invite our panelists forward. So Judah, I'm going to bring you back into the space. Benny, I'm so excited. Hey, Benny, I'm going to bring you into the space. It's good to see you.
Hello, good
Isaac,
to see
I'll bring
you. Good to
Isaac
see
in
you.
too. Hey, Benny. Isaac, for folks who don't know, I got to be careful. Isaac is one of my bosses. Isaac serves on the board of youth mental health, so I got to be on my game today. And Anna Anpo, I want to bring you on too if you're here to join us in this session. Maybe she's here, maybe not. That's okay. If she joins us, that'll be fantastic. So I'm gonna do. Oh, there you are. Oh my gosh, it's so good to meet you. Hi, hey, Anpo. So I've got a favor for y'all. I am struggling through my computer and sickness to find y'all's bios. So I'm hoping, if y'all don't mind, if you could offer me some grace, I would love to just go around. And if you can just share before we get into the questions, I got the questions pulled up. I'll be good on that point. But if you could just share maybe briefly, just a couple of minutes about who you are, your pronouns, and just what expertise that you're really excited to bring into this space today and then we'll get into the formal questions. And Judah, I may come to you last just because we just heard from you, and I did have your bio pulled up. Benny, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Isaac and then Ampo.
Hi everyone. Such an honor to be here in a very global platform. So I'm a global mental health and suicide prevention advocate with lived experience and triple minority identities from Jakarta, Indonesia. So since founding Influlight Indonesia, the first youth-based suicide prevention community back in 2013, I have pioneered community-driven approaches that center youth with lived experience in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. Since 2020, I have worked with various UN agencies, universities, and international funding bodies to advance meaningful engagement of marginalized youth and communities with lived experience in global mental health policy and research. Thank you. So happy to be here.
Benny, now I'm jealous I didn't get to read that. Thank you for all the work that you've done. Isaac, let's go to you. I saw you on mute really fast. Go for it.
No, you're good. Hello, my name is Isaac. My pronouns are he, him, his. I was a attendee at last year's FYP event, so super excited to be back as a panelist and getting to see a few of my friends and community and the member list got me really excited. And then of course being with you here today. A little bit about me. I am also a person with lived experience or living experience, currently in recovery. In my professional roles, I serve as a researcher at the Mental for All Lab at Harvard Medical School, developing peer support adaptations across global contexts, and also consult and guide a number of organizations, including Youth Move National, the WHO, MHA, and a few other organizations as well. And really my North Star is wanting to create a happier, healthier global community with peers and lived experience being the forefront of that mission. But super excited to talk with everyone here today, and thank you FYP for having me.
Thank you, Isaac. Ampo, you're next.
Hi everyone, Anpa Duwashte. My name is Anpo Jensen. I'm from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. So I come from an indigenous nation called Oglala Lakota. And I'm really excited to be here. I think I was emailing Elena that I was like, just put in my bio that like a founder of Hero Dream Shine. So I'll talk a little bit more about that and the initiative and why that exists today. It'll answer a lot of the questions that I have that are given to me from the panel. So thank you. Oh, I should mention, actually, no, I'll wait for my turn.
Hey, the floor is yours. We're here to let you shine. You want to mention it right now, please do so. That's all right.
I'll be in my story. So
okay, all right. I got you. You got agency. Okay, Judah, last but not least, if you want to just share, maybe is there anything you didn't share? Maybe a little tidbit, another portion of your story you want to jump in with? Or you want to just go to your question?
Yeah, I think we can go to the question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, it's so glad. Thank you all for being here with me today. I'm so excited to talk to you. So the first question I do have is actually for you, Judah. So why is shifting from traditional top-down clinical mental health models to community-based, youth-led approaches so critical for creating solutions that are effective and culturally relevant? I will say, at least my experience and I statement from me in the US is I always experience these sort of like false binaries, right? It's like you have to have either a clinician or a primary care doctor or someone who is just going to prescribe medication, or that's entirely wrong. And you have to have a peer supporter. You have to have someone who would just lived and living experience is going to help and guide you. And if not that, this. It's like we have these sort of like false binaries, and sometimes our fields fight a little bit. And I just feel like, isn't it kind of all of the things? So, Judah, I want to hear from you. From your perspective, what is it like with these top-down models, and how can we really center youth lived and living experience?
Thank you so much, Ak. Yeah, so shifting from traditional top-down clinical mental health models to community-based youth-led approaches is very critical because our current systems cannot meet the scale or diversity of the need we are seeing worldwide at the moment. And I can prove this because according to a global review in 2022, between 65 to 80% of people in low and middle income countries who require mental health services receive no or minimal adequate care. And the treatment gap is not just about access, it's about relevance. The dominant medical model is often rooted in global north principles and assumes that the frameworks developed for one cultural context can be applied everywhere. But we know that mental health is deeply shaped by context, and the way distress is expressed, understood, and healed often differs across cultures. I can take an example because I'm in Kenya. The challenges become even clearer because according to one of our surveys, we have only 106 psychiatrists for a population of over 50 million people. And this is very alarming. And all while this is going on, the government expenditure, the WHO recommended government expenditure for every person with every individual in a country is $1.16, but in Kenya it's 0.0012 per person. So you can imagine the system inevitably now is forced to focus on people in acute crisis rather than on prevention and promotion. And this leaves entire communities underserved and reinforces a model of care that's reactive rather than proactive. At the same time, and talking about community, the risks young people face are including but not limited to poverty, trauma, abuse, and substance use, are all challenges that are experienced within the communities we live in. And if these risks are rooted there, then the community itself must be recognized as a right holder of the mental health solutions. Communities cannot simply be treated as passive recipients of services. They must be empowered to be active agents of the resilience and the care they seek. And this is why community-based youth-led approaches are so vital. When young people are equipped to co-design and lead interventions, they make mental health accessible, culturally relevant, and sustainable. In Kenya, for example, we have this program at IW, Integrative Wellbeing, where we are working with young people to create peer support groups, safe spaces, storytelling, get all those creative juices flowing, but grounded in their own reality and their own language. These interventions have not replaced professional care. They have complemented it, as you were saying, the two binaries, reaching places and the people that the formal system could simply not reach. And globally, what makes these approaches powerful is their diversity. When youth and communities lead, they generate solutions that are not one size fits all, but they're very deeply contextual. This creates a plethora of models where we can learn from and adapt from different countries, from different contexts. An example of such an intervention will be the Friendship Bench, which has gotten the global acclaim, that was developed in Zimbabwe, where grandmothers provided therapy on wooden benches. It began as a community idea and has gained global recognition. Similarly, models from Kenya and other parts of the world can inspire adaptation from everywhere, enriching the global mental health field and the knowledge that we have. And importantly, as I wrap up, these approaches do more than fill the gaps. They can transform global mental health systems as we know them. First, they shift the paradigm from pathology to prevention and promotion of care, embedding mental health into everyday community life rather than limiting it to hospitals and clinics. They also diversify the workforce by recognizing young people, peer supporters, and community leaders as essential actors, not just professionals. And they expand our evidence base, offering scalable, low-cost models that respond to local realities while informing our global standards of care. In this way, community-based youth-led systems challenge the historical imbalance that we are facing, and they allow us to exchange the idea. And if we are embracing this model, then this shift could redefine what we view as global mental health into a field that is more participatory, pluralistic, and resilient, and it's better equipped to meet the needs of our rapidly changing world. Thank you, Ak. I think that will be my answer for that.
You're great. Now, I have a special question for all of our panelists, but I do just want to open it up in case I just dropped Judah's question in the chat. Does anyone just want to quickly add a little bit from their own perspective around this? And if not, that's okay. I've got special questions for all of y'all. Well, how about this? I'm going to let y'all read the question in the chat, think about it. And in the meantime, Benny, maybe I'll come to you and I want to ask you what I'm calling my special question. And so, Benny, what does meaningful youth engagement, right? Another I statement from me, youth-led, youth-driven, youth engagement, it's such a buzzword. It's such a, like all these people are saying it. Do they know what it means? Are they actually doing it? Right? So could you talk to us about like, what does it really mean in practice? To do it meaningful, what does that actually look like? And how
Mm-hmm.
do you move beyond sort of like tokenizing, voyeuristic sort of practices to
Mm-hmm.
actually ensuring that young people are co-creators in program design, not just advisors?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. So I'll start with a story that I had when I just started my Institute Light Indonesia. So more than a decade ago, like about 2000, about 2013, 14, I attended a national suicide prevention seminar as one of the speakers. And at this backstage, while waiting for my turn, I talked to one of the medical faculty who arranged this event, right? So uh, as usual, we discussed the most pressing mental health issues that they had been facing in their clinical encounter. So this medical professionals say that I have seen more depressed youth and adolescents these days. I think it's social media to blame. It shaped the instant gratification mentality, making these youths more whiny and rebellious compared to my generation who had to learn on how to wait and work hard diligently to get whatever we wanted back then, right? So at that time, I felt so unease. Searching for a simply oversimplifying narrative implicitly blames them for their suffering while absolving the system that they have failed them. Complex, multifaceted challenges such as climate crisis, economic inequity, job instability, constant peer pressure, violence, and many other issues deep-rooted in the society are reduced to simplistic formulas. Social media equals mental health problems, or divisive labels like the instant generation or the strawberry one, like these days, right? So this reductionism, I believe, serves a very dangerous purpose. It allows society to avoid confronting the deeper, more comfortable truths about structural inequalities, economic pressures, climate anxiety, and systemic discrimination that actually drive mental health crises among youth. And there have been so many youths who come to me who frequently being seen as one of the youngest in the panel in a mental health seminar. Unfortunately, the seminar about youth mental health. So they approached me and said these are actually the real problem, and they don't really understand why these senior mental health professionals did not catch it in the presentation. So more critically, I believe this narrative excludes the very voices that matter the most. Young people living with mental health challenges. And this reinforces the adult professional position as the truth bearer, despite its irrelevance and reductionistic way of seeing youth live experiences. Oftentimes, youth or people with this depression or any person with lived experience of mental health issues are positioned into a very conflicting position. They are treated as the vulnerable victim of surrounding situation, yet also as a person with agency capable of doing wrongdoings or erratic behaviors. And this is something that we need to change. The very system designed to support mental well-being often perpetuate this stigma they claim to address. So I could not help but to see how the dominant biomedical and psychological discourse have been perpetuating this kind of dynamics between professionals and people with lived experience, and particularly youth, right? So as a person with both lived experience of mental health issues and subject matter expert in psychology, I acknowledge that there will be tough steps needed to achieve this meaningful youth engagement. Firstly, working alongside with youth lived experience means being willing to have our assumptions as adult professionals, quote unquote, particularly the stigmatizing one, being challenged. Our intervention that is deeply based on evidence from somewhere else, particularly from the westernized countries, and being imported to the lower middle income countries in Asia, Africa, or somewhere else, it's being questioned by the young people there, living there, right? And our age-based seniority, where in cultures where ageism is so prevalent, it being dismantled by this kind of engagement. And we need to be ready for that. And we need to be ready for our approaches, fundamentally reconsider. And it means acknowledging that the current system failure to adequately address mental health crisis suggests that our professional expertise alone is insufficient. And it requires a very deep intellectual humility to start on this point. Secondly, it is also about acknowledging that lived experience of young people in navigating the whole mental health system, its in affordability, in accessibility, in its irrelevance, affected by the interventions as well as by the assumptions of this professional can also be a form of technical expertise. Young people are not here to just sell their sob stories, okay? I wasn't the youth that cry only for selling my depression moment. I was there. I was capable to inform, to co-design, and they can be equipped by, young people can be equipped by new knowledge and skills and inform our very system. And I have seen this throughout my work as well, co-developing a new digital storytelling intervention for improving mental health literacy in Java, in Indonesia. And these young people are very much tech savvy. They are very much very well informed about mental health issues, and they really want to contribute. And we just had that chance after decades of building the systems to involve them in developing this new intervention. And they were so relieved that finally that the voices are listened to. And that's how we have to do this. Like, we have to be prepared to be challenged. We have to be so humble to listen with this kind of capacity to be able to relearn and unlearn our assumptions, and as well as a radical acceptance toward the fact that our medical psychological background is inadequate and potentially bring more harm than benefits. So I believe it's all about redistributing power and giving more spaces to young people in meaningful youth engagement. Thank you.
Benny, you're lucky I'm on this borrowed computer because I was searching for the heart reaction and I couldn't find it, and it was just been hearts everywhere the entire time you were speaking. Like, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I dropped that question also in the chat. So our other speakers, feel free to chime in when it's your turn. But I want to keep us moving because I want to really give Isaac a chance to talk. So Isaac, I'm going to welcome you into the space. Here's my special question for you, which is peer support is a cornerstone of this work, right? I know it's been in my life. We've talked a lot about peer support already today. We know that it's a cornerstone of really doing health equity in youth mental health. So from your perspective, what training, resources, safeguards are essential to empower young people to effectively and safely support their peers' mental well-being?
Yeah, no, thank you, Tay, for the question. And I'm a yapper, so I'll take my time, don't worry. I think that the first thing that comes to mind, and Benny, thank you so much for the beautiful response. So many comments you made resonated with me as a youth leader. And the first thing that came to my mind of just I guess a resource that I in every space I'm in, I encourage adult allies and adults who are not necessarily allies to embody, is that young people are going to support each other whether we like it or not, and whether there's a liability associated or not. I remember when I was much earlier in my advocacy journey, adults for the life of them could not understand why do we need to give young people XYZ trainings, and this belief that it poses a liability more than a safeguard. And I feel like years later, as I've talked to more young people, I continue to learn young people don't care if you give them the training or not, or whatever formalized certificates or whatever. They're going to go to each other first, no matter what we do. So I think a mindset shift, which can also be a resource and ultimately creating a safeguard, is recognizing it is more important to prepare our young people to engage in safe supporting of one another rather than no, don't do that. Because you all try telling a young person no. I have two nieces. I've told them no many times and they still do it, sometimes bitterly to like annoy me. So that's all to say. That's a first mindset shift. Now, in terms of practical training and resources, overall, there is a need for more formalized youth peer support trainings across the globe. Even here in the US, youth peer support tends to be a very under utilized or not even available specialty within the peer support training infrastructure across our nation. And in my global mental health research, we found that there are many global contexts where, despite having many community ties, there is no formalized peer support training at all. And that's kind of the work at our lab we're trying to address. But there is a need ultimately to ensure that when there is youth trainings, which I've taken part in a few of them, that they are youth led and that they're youth created. I've had many quote unquote youth peer support trainings where they were extremely surface level or shallow, or they just did not get it. And that reflected the fact that they were not youth led or youth created. There's also the need that they are lived experience and peer led, meaning that it does honor the origin and roots of peer support as a social justice movement rather than a non-specialist provider type. I feel like in a lot of the work in Tay, why I love Youth Move so much is that even in this current peer support ecosystem, where in the last few years peer support has become this hot and sexy thing in mental health, so many programs just don't get it, and they circumvent the advocacy piece or the justice piece, and they kind of just clinical wash it. And so there is a need to ensure that our peer trainings are also honoring that justice piece and ensuring peer supporters are advocates. Now, my last piece is just on what are the trainings we require for young people if we're not able to give them a full-blown specialist training is three and a half things. First and foremost is crisis management. A lot of adults are shocked when I tell them my stories of how I've essentially been a suicide responder to some of my friends, or I've been a crisis responder and I had no training, especially as young as like 18 when I was in college. And my firm belief is, one, I should have not been put in that position, and two, why did my university have the energy to train me after I had that incident? And so there is a need to ensure that young people, when they do have a peer coming to them, either in a psychotic episode or when they're suicidal or having a trauma relapse, that they are adequately prepared to respond to that in a way that is empathetic. And also, and this goes into my second point, in a way that respects their own boundaries and their own capacities. As the quote unquote therapy friend of my friend group, I very quickly got burnt out. And so I had to personally learn how to check in with myself, how to recognize my own triggers, activators, and boundaries, and how to communicate that to my peers, which are all very difficult things. Training young people, those same topics, I think is so important. And I think the last piece is also, we talk so much about lived experience, but we don't talk enough about what is the boundary of strategically disclosing it versus what kind of turns into trauma dumping. I think that was a huge piece I also tended to struggle with a lot, particularly when other peers would come to me with their lived experience. And even I think now in my career, when I speak about my lived expertise or my lived experience with CPTSD, young people are very excited and say like, oh, I see so much of myself, and then they share their entire story, which I'm honored for that. And I go, oh, this is kind of a lot. So recognizing how can we train young people, how do you share a story in a way that doesn't accidentally re-traumatize or trigger other people? And also, I think more broadly, how do we give young people these spaces where they can share that story? Because I think oftentimes oversharing comes from a place of not being provided that opportunity before. And yeah, I can talk for hours about this topic. I love peer support. So I'm going to stop there, but I'm always happy to continue this conversation with anyone about youth peer support. So yeah, thank you, Tate, for the question.
Gosh, of course. Thank you so much, Isaac. Okay, Amvo, I'm coming over to you. We've got time, so please, we've got about 9 minutes left. This is all you. You kind of have the last word for us. So my special question for you is, how can innovations and insights from grassroots youth-led projects be leveraged to influence and reform larger systems like schools, policies, healthcare, and government funding. And I might throw a little bit on there as fellow Native Indigenous here. How can we even envision those outside of those systems and start thinking about what decolonialization can mean when you're still under settler colonialism? So if you want to do that little curveball as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm super excited to answer that last part. So everyone, I'll just start from the beginning because it's where a lot of it started. I went to Stanford University and I studied civil environmental engineering. And there was a moment when I was sitting in the back of the class and we were learning about climate change adaptation and mitigation plans. And they were talking about how this like Yosemite, which is a national park, was so beautiful before colonialism. And then afterwards it's like overgrown and there's like all this like, trees and wood and firewood hazard. I raised my hand in the class and I said, "You know why it's like that, right?" And they were like, no. And I said, "Because you removed indigenous peoples from taking care of that land. They no longer have access to chopping the wood down for their homes, for their ceremonies. That's why it's overgrown and it's a fire hazard, a global fire hazard, is because we're not able to have access to those lands to to live." And I was kind of seeing, I was like, I mean, they nodded their heads, but they kind of, kind of brushed me off. But the youth, the other young people that were in those classrooms didn't, they heard me and they were like, yeah, that's a really good point. And so I just love that this is about like youth movement because that's where the change is and that's where it's happening and that's where it's gonna be. So that, that was a mixed experience, but the benefit of that experience was that I knew I was supported because the next generation of leaders are gonna know and they're gonna hear because they got that training, that I spoke up and I shared that example with them. And so sharing these examples, which are really logical expressions of Indigenous stewardship, very logical, very scientific. I noticed that I became a translator in a way of translating environmental engineering to my community and to the world, I guess. Because Indigenous peoples have always been very advanced and very, very technical, and it's wrapped in our language so that, if I say something in my language, it's way more advanced than I would say in English because English kind of dumbs it down a bit, simplifies it to an extent. So with that experience, I come home and I'm like excited to use my degrees and to use this knowledge I have to help my community. Um, and to leverage Indigenous sovereignty. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but a lot of us, there's over 567 Indigenous nations within the United States. And while I was also at school, I also noticed that in global health, we were not paying attention to any Indigenous nations within the US. A lot of water systems, a lot of global health interventions and funding was directed overseas. So when I was coming to global health classes, I was like really impressed that they were creating culturally competent or relevant materials for other nations, Indigenous nations, um, or other nations overseas, but not here. So why don't I get Lakota specific treatment? You know what I mean? Or culturally relevant materials to intervene on a lot of the health disparities that we have, or even just the infrastructural disparities. And so that really motivated me too. I said, okay, there's an opportunity here. I love young people because we're like, yeah, there's a problem, but we're gonna fix it. Um, using what we have. So that's kind of the energy that I brought back home. So I led a water testing movement where I trained other young people and said, well, if we don't have this data, this water data, we can't make good decisions. And we're gonna have we wait another 30 years to get more data to know what's in our waters, or we're gonna go get it. So a lot of us young people, we went and got that sampling. And I used to teach at a tribal college, so I would teach other youth and mobilize them and say like, this is how we do water sampling, this is what we can do. And we'd go walk down the street and go take some mock sampling. So I was very ingrained this whole like intervention process and using those experiences that I had that I saw in the world lacked, that we could use here and strengthen up home. So I definitely pushed for all of that. But at the same time, when I was in those classes and when I was experiencing this in the world where Indigenous voices just weren't there at the forefront, I started writing poetry. So I would write like, I'd write some poetry, and one of the prompts we had was like, write a poem to someone you have an unresolved issue with. And I just wrote it to the UN because I was like, one day I'm gonna go to the UN because I'm gonna elevate this work to that framework because in my eyes, it hasn't been done that here yet. So it ended up happening, which is really crazy. So I ended up going to the UN and advocating on a lot of the health disparities and water disparities. And, we talk about mental health, like for Indigenous youth, being in our land and integrating our livelihoods and our lives back to taking care of the water, back to getting wood for our ceremonies, back to engaging in those traditional healing spaces. That is just ingrained in its entirety. So like for instance, Sunday we have we're gonna go to one of our sacred sites because it aligns with the stars, and we're gonna go hike it and as a community. So we do things like that on a regular basis. But the key thing I want people to remember is frameworks are only as good as if we practice them. So we have a treaty actually that was established in 1868 and 1851, and that's where a lot of my work began. I've heard a lot of things from the other speakers talking about intergeneration, knowledge sharing, support, and I really leaned on that, the elders, because they're the ones who have that memory of what life was like before colonialism, and they have that strength from that. So they're the thread, and I'm like, oh my God, please mentor me. So I have a few mentors who would guide me in the UN process. Actually, the Lakota people. Um, are one of the tribes that barged down the doors and marched in the UN and said, "We're here, we're nations," and we've always been nations. So that strength, that power, really inspired me to use that to strengthen up the grassroots initiatives that we have at home. Strengthen your people up, strengthen your peers up, and then let them go do it. So that's the type of mentality I have, and I am really empowered that knowing that we had before colonialism, all of our people, we had the best healthcare, the best, land stewardship. We had the best education, like being home with your grandmother, and learning from your family is education. So, I really admire a lot of peers who are talking about all of that, especially leaning on their community members and their traditional healers, and um, coming at it with an action-based approach. So that's kind of that's the work I do. So I'm gonna drop in the chat my poetry book. Actually, one of the things that I don't like waiting for is I don't like waiting for like, you know, I don't want to say permission, but I don't like waiting. If like I have to wait for a publisher to like choose me, I'm gonna be like, no, I'm choosing myself. So it's self-published. Um, and I've been promoting it, so you're welcome to look at it. But in there, it's about advocacy. It's called Hero Dream Shine because I use that framework of having your heroes, which are like my elders and a lot of my historical figures in my tribe. Having dreams, how are we going to continue this dream forward that we were gifted from maybe our tribe, maybe your grandmother, maybe some scientist. And then how are we going to step into that in ourselves? Like, how are we going to realize something for ourselves because we make it unique, as we go along. So that's the framework that I really stepped into throughout my career. And yeah, it's called Hero Dream Shine. And so there's a few of my heroes that are in there in a poetry book. But I took this book with me all over. So I spoke all the poems I read in Italy at the UNICEF director. I read on different UN floors. And people kept asking me, "Do you have a book? Do you have a book?" And I said, "No, I don't have a book." Well, I just dropped my pen. I was like, "No, I don't have a book." So this is the result of all of that advocacy and stepping into rooms and voicing, how powerful young people are. And when I got this question before, is like, how do you avoid tokenism? And how do you push for meaningful engagement? And that's a twofold thing for me. So one of it is like, it feels scary because you feel like you're alone in these spaces that are not youth inclusive. That's when I really lean into the framework and the community I built with Hero Dreams Shine, is I reach out to them. And if you follow on Instagram, you'll see that I have I highlight other people from around the world and the stories they do and the work they do in their communities. Because I wanted to elevate their voices while I was elevating mine. So that peer-to-peer working together is kind of is the approach that I have. And then the other thing is, I know tokenism is real, but I've gotten this question from another Indigenous youth, and it's real and it is unfortunate, but we got to use what we have. So
Yeah.
when you barge in the door, like open that door for other people. That's the kind of mentality I have. So I really pay attention and like put my focus and my energy, where I want to see things happen. I don't focus on maybe the realities because sometimes realities suck, but I really focus on the potential and where I want to go. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Oh, you did.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just really happy to hear from all of you too. So
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's brilliant. And thank you for dropping that book in the chat. That's amazing. So two things happening right now. I can barely see the chat, but I do believe I'm getting yelled at for not opening up the questions to the audience. But we're also 3 minutes over. So this is what we're going to do. If folks have questions for the group, please feel free to put it in the chat. You can also email me. I dropped my email in there. I do want to give folks time to take a quick break before we go into our breakout sessions. But maybe if the panelists, do you have maybe just like a few more minutes just to stick around a little bit? Maybe we could quickly answer a couple questions for the chat. Is that okay? All right, seeing some nods, seeing some thumbs up. Okay. I believe folks definitely have access to the chat. So if you have a question, throw it in there. I think people do have an opportunity to unmute. And Samson, I see your hand immediately. So let me stop blabbing, please. Samson, what's the question you got for our folks? I don't know if are you able to unmute? If not, throw the question in the chat for us. We'll do a quick question. Okay, well, we're waiting on Samson's question. I think question was shared. Based upon stigma reduction, what strategies have you seen work best in breaking the stigma around mental health among young people? And quickly if we can.
I think I'll go with that. So there are several methods that has been used for stigma reduction. Two of the most effective that I've observed in lower middle income context is digital storytelling. Use it to disseminate storytelling about life experiences. Of course, all ethics considered about privacy, confidentiality, and everything that matters in the context. To just show that these experiences are real and it is there waiting to be heard, and yeah, it's a part of the system that we participate in, and there's something that we can do together. The second one is the human library. So we do not only see people on the screen, instead we meet people in the public spaces or any kind of indoor outdoor spaces that is comfortable for two people meet with each other, and they can share their stories together about their own life experiences. And each life experiences must be unique and spatial, right? So they can complement and give more insights to each other as well. So those two are very useful for stigma reduction.
I can also add something to do with the meaningful engagement, especially asking how you want to be involved and where you want to be involved. I see a lot of stigma coming by, we are saying it's a stigma, but I'm coming from my own house and then I'm telling a young person that this is what you're supposed to do. But if they define the what, where, how, and when, then stigma is a concept they are able to discuss. And then the second bit at point is also allow creativity. It's not everyone who's, as I believe Isaac is the one who said this, peers will go to each other no matter what certification, blah, blah, blah. But if you encourage curiosity, a person is able to ask questions, ask what is hard for them, ask what is hard for them to process. And then you can be able to support from a point of strength and not from a point of, I know better than you. Yeah.
Isaac Ampo, I welcome you. We've got 3 minutes if anyone wants to fill those 3 minutes before break. But if not, no worries, we can go to break early.
I was just gonna say I greatly agree with Judah on this. Approaching things with curiosity and question like a curiosity framework is really, really helpful for addressing that. And then also in my experience with I guess addressing stigma is that you really have to be the example. So you're the one that is setting the tone and you're the one that is reducing that stigma, and there's an element of believing it that is really, really helpful for myself. And I don't know if other youth experience that too, but
Yeah, I think building off of what everyone has said so far, what I kind of think of as a lot, especially as like a queer brown person myself, is internalized stigma rather than externalized. I think that for many of my friends and either in the mental health space or as like even if they're a direct provider, a phenomenon I feel like many of us experience is this almost like rejection of a lot of the for example, like validation language. I, for example, tend to really struggle with where I go, oh, you're just trained to say that. So like, how is that helpful? And this is a very like complex thing that I feel like I am currently navigating, my friends are navigating, where it really is rooted in this internalized stigma of what counts as help and what we find acceptable as help, especially when we become professionals within this space. I think how we ourselves can challenge that is reminding ourselves we are worthy of the same care that we're fighting for other people to have. Because I think obviously we have faith in it, we're fighting for it to be expanded. And then I think too, really practicing what we preach to other people, I think is another way that we can combat internalized stigma. And I think, like you all mentioned, sharing stories is great, but I think in my experience, especially when mentoring or having friends who also come from queer or brown communities, is um, when they see the way that we navigate that internalized stigma, I feel like they also have like an aha moment. I know that that's happened for me and like my own mentors within this space. So I think that's a huge thing that I kind of immediately thought of. But yeah, thank you for the question.
Y'all are so brilliant. Thank you all so much for your time. We are going to transition into break. We're going to break for 5 minutes. When we come back at 35 minutes past the hour, we are going to go into our first breakout room sessions. But before we do that, let's fill the screen with emojis, y'all. Like, come on, let's celebrate our panelists. Judah, Benny, Isaac, Ampo, phenomenal. Phenomenal. Thank you so much genuinely for your time. I know we were hoping to get more questions in. Please, I'm around. Email them to me. I will collect them. I'll work with our panelists to get there. And before we go to break, I will just share really quickly because I see in the chat, how do you help someone who can't articulate what they're going through? Give them self-agency, give them time, and sit with them. Sometimes you don't need to say anything. Sometimes you don't need to help. Sometimes you just need to sit with them, go for a walk, watch a television show, just be present, right? Just be present. At least that's the I statement, right? And if you don't know, I always ask, hey, are you going through something? I feel like you're struggling to articulate. Any way I can help, please tell me. But if not, I'm just going to sit here with you and share space. Okay. Appreciate y'all. See you in 5 minutes before our breakout sessions. Thank you, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. I know that was a very, very short break. If you need to do something, please take care of yourself. You know, I know we have an agenda. I know we're trying to move forward. I know folks don't want to miss anything, but this is about youth mental health. So if we're not focusing on ourselves, if we're not self-caring, we're actually not moving this into practice, are we? So let's just de-stress. We're going to go with the flow. If you need to take a longer break, please do so. But if you are back, if you are ready, then please, we have 3 breakout room sessions, all going to be fantastic, all with some different folks. And so if you open that up, you'll see Breaking Barriers and Promoting Youth Mental Health. Awesome session. The Power of Connection, Fostering Social Supports. We've been talking about that all day so far. Awesome session 2. Feel free to join there. And then Policy Action and Youth Mental Health. Why grassroots movements are so important. So those are the 3 breakout sessions we have for you. Please feel free to join which one you want to. And I would be remiss if I wouldn't be doing my host duties or organizing duties if I didn't tell you if we could be mindful a little bit about attendance. If you see one group only has 2 folks in it and another group maybe has 40, let's try to go into the group with 2, please. We'd really, really appreciate it. All of our presenters, all of our sessions are amazing. You're not going to miss out, I promise you, if you go into a session that currently has low attendance. So if you could help us out, we would appreciate it. But those are our sessions. Please join. It's going to be great. And we'll see you back here in a little bit.
Hi everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you back to the main room, and I hope that you all had a great time in the breakout rooms that you were in. I really enjoyed hearing from the panelists on my session. First, I would like to hear from folks about how their panel session went. Ronit, are you here, Ronit? Okay. Hey, would you like to jump in and tell me how was your session? And what are some high-level takeaways that you received from it?
Hey, Elena, sorry, are you calling me in?
Yes.
Yes. Hey, unfortunately, I was sick during the breakout sessions.
Oh,
So I did not attend any of them. But I will say if we could just open it up. I mean, folks who were in the breakout session, you have access to the chat. I think folks are able to unmute. And moderators, if you just want to jump in, like Elena said, we just want to hear how did it go? Like how did it land for folks? And even how is today going so far and how is it landing for you? So open space. And Elena, I'm sorry I couldn't share more. I was coughing up a storm.
no worries. And I'm glad that you managed to catch a breather earlier during our breakout session. So I guess it's to you all, audience. Anybody would like to share?
I see Connor. Connor,
Yeah.
please.
Oh, yeah.
I will gladly share. We had a great breakout session in our room. We were in the policy one. Sanvi and Emmy and I were the speakers, and Dr. O moderated. And it was really, I thought it was fantastic. We all spoke a bit about our own experiences in the mental health policy space and like just broadly talked about the need for young people to feel empowered to be in these like change making spaces and that like we belong and that our experiences are oftentimes more salient for government officials than numbers on a fact sheet. And also the other, I think, really important thing to think about is that young people and like people that exist in these mental health systems know what's happening so much sooner than policymakers do when they get a fact sheet years later after someone has researched it. So I feel like it's really important that we feel empowered as young people to talk, raise our voices, find strength in numbers, and really translate our own lived experience to like actual concrete policy proposals around the world.
I love hearing that. I also wanted to hear about the panel session on connection and I'm looking at the comments and I see Rebecca Aderemi, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrongly. But if you feel so inclined, would you like to share about what were your main takeaways for that particular session? And it's totally okay if you're not comfortable to do so, but yeah. Okay. Then I would like to hear from our moderator of the panel, Glenn. How was your panel session?
Hi. Yeah, I was just trying to type out some of the thoughts. I think we covered a quite a wide span of things. Talking about being intentional around building your community of support. For you could have different people for different forms of support. We talked about some trends in social connections today, how it can feel a little bit fragile, and being a young person today has changed like the ways of how you are a young person has changed, even just across the pandemic as well, pre and post pandemic. We talk about how it's important to encourage spaces and situations to allow people to take that first step, to make a connection or start a conversation or have like an interaction. How do you build those spaces? Um, Also, it just means as means of like reminding people that we're all still human and we can find these points of connection. And we talked a little bit about digital spaces as well. So talking about social media, the use of things like ChatGPT in our day-to-day interactions. Um, Talking about these tools as ways to outsource connection rather than to create connection. Or how, at least that's how they're currently being used. But we can find ways to kind of um, bridge the virtual space to a physical space as well. Mercy talked a little bit about how they use TikTok to find the community, but use like physical spaces to kind of actually bring that community together. Um, yeah, a lot of like trying to needing to overcome initial fears and hesitations to take more risks, to try and forge connections. Um, a lot of that. I also didn't get a chance at the end because we kind of ran up against time. Didn't get a chance to thank my panelists. So just wanted to say thank you also to Kate, Mercy, and Marks for your input throughout the session.
My experience was the same as well. I ran out of time and to sort of thank my fellow panelists as well. And I would like to just take this moment to also tell you all about how my panel session went. And we talked about mental health equity, and we realized how difficult it actually really is to bridge all the multilateral aspects of coming from law and legislation, of coming from youth and from peer support and community support, as well as the approach from medical care. There's so many points of contention. And one thing that I'm really hearing from my panelists from my panel session was that it is important to be able to hold space for multiple dialogues to happen and for things to be resolved from a case to case basis. There are still disagreements, and a huge one regarding the use of digital mental health, but it's something that requires all of us to stop and listen before we come to our conclusions. Thank you for our speakers, to our dear speakers, moderators, and attendees. We are halfway through our event for joining us. Your attendance and engagement are what make our event successful, and for that, I am grateful. To thank you all. We are now going to have a raffle draw for our aromatherapy pens brought to you by the Rare Impact Fund. The Rare Impact Fund is an organization founded by recording artist, actress, producer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist Selena Gomez, geared towards fundraising and supporting nonprofit partners to increase the reach of mental health support to more young people. I have Joanna now pulling up our spinning wheel of names. Shall we spin the wheel? Connor is holding out the aromatherapy pens if you would like to see it. And congratulations, Rebecca Durami. And we shall spin the wheel again.
And see, that's what you get for participating in the chat. You know, the wheel knows. The
That
wheel
is
knows.
true. The wheel hears. And Ross Layton, our new speaker. And audience, if you would like to join me in celebrating our winners of aromatherapy pets, join me. Throw in your emojis, clap hands, show the love in the room. And next, who is our next winner? Now we can even hear the wheel. We have Cynthia Theo. Okay, and we can spin the wheel again. And we have Zaya Desiree Mamboma. Next, who else do we have? We have Aisha Tazir Khan. It's true, Tay. People who are active in the chats, who are engaging, are the ones who reap the rewards of our event.
Hey, listen, I hosted the whole first half of this, so the wheel better be picking me next. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let's spin the wheel again. We have lots of gifts to give away, and we wish we could give to everyone. And the next person who gets it is
It's not Tay. Sorry,
Buka
Tay.
Fatia Tawakaltu. Okay,
More
do
spinning?
we spin again? We have the Niti. And dear Joanna, slash our technical support person, how many more aromatherapy pens or spins do we have?
I don't think we have more spins left.
Okay. And the Niti was our final winner. And now I would like to brief you all for the next segment of our event. We're going into our partner breakout sessions. We have firstly Youth Move National. Youth Move National is leading a panel on youth-driven mental health advocacy focused on organizing strategies and systemic change. Youth Move National champions youth-driven mental health advocacy across the United States, sharing their expertise in youth organizing and advocacy strategies for systemic change in mental health advocacy. As you heard from Tay earlier during his opening, Youth Move National is about motivating others through voices of experience. Secondly, we have Youth Power Project. Youth Power Project is leading a session on empowering youth through advocacy and leadership development with practical organizing skills. Youth Power Project is dedicated to empowering youth through advocacy and leadership development, bringing expertise in youth-led organizing and building youth advocacy capacity. And thirdly, we have Letters to Strangers. Get ready with a pen and paper because Letters to Strangers is leading a session on promoting kindness and mental wellness through community building and positive action initiatives. Letters to Strangers focuses on supporting the wellness of young people and empowering them to create a kinder and braver world through their platform. So, dear attendees, in case all of these were just word vomits, once again, there's youth organizing and advocacy strategies at Youth Move National. There is leadership development and advocacy strategies at Youth Power Project. And there is compassion and wellness community promotion, letter writing, at Letters to Strangers. And keep in mind, if you look at, and now you're almost free to go, but if you look at rooms and it seems that one is more full than others, I want all of you to check in on yourself. Does it feel like I know one topic more than the rest? does it feel like that topic seems to be an aspect that is drawn to me? I would like you all to decide and evenly disperse as you may. And now you all are welcome to go to your breakout sessions. Thank you. And this is Alina Lim signing off.
Welcome back, everybody. I know we're just taking a few minutes to let folks trickle in from the breakout groups to join back from the outside. So if you can just give our organizers maybe one more minute, we're going to collect everybody and then do some fun before we close out and let you on with your days. So welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dave. While we're still waiting on people to join back, do we have anyone who wants to share some of their thoughts and experiences from the breakout sessions we just had with our partners? I'd love to first say a huge thank you to Youth Power Project, Youth Move National, and Let Us Two Strangers. Oh my God, you guys were so incredible. I had the opportunity to, you know, hop into rooms here and there and hearing so passionately Tay speaking, Samantha speaking, and Sanvi speaking. I mean, it's. I'm sure you guys had fun. So anyone who wants to quickly chip in for the next 5 minutes, we can have you unmute your microphones and then say one or two things that you caught from the sessions with our partners. The floor is open.
Well, Dr. O, I don't mind jumping in real fast and just sharing. Oh, and Dennis, you're helping me out
Dennis.
too. Okay, so I'm going to pass this over to Dennis. So Dennis was in my session, and instead of just centering our organization and talking the whole time and doing some didactic presentation, we wanted to do a peer support co-reflection space. So we did a process that Youth Move National does, which is called What Helps, What Harms, and What Connects. And so our group literally just shared space. We were vulnerable with each other, and we shared on our mental health journey what helps us personally, what harms us, what are those barriers that we find, and then ultimately, what connects us, and what are those strengths that we personally have that we can then share with others. So Dennis, you tell me, and you be honest, how did it go? Did it go okay? Share a little bit about our group.
Thank you so much. It was really an amazing and an insightful session. And you really are an amazing moderator. Let me give you flowers for that. And it was really amazing just to have Refilwe, to have Ahmed, to have Gorota, I think, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, we've really shared an amazing time. And yeah, what helps? I think for me, I shared on poetry, journaling, and just focusing on being grateful for each day and each week. And then there was also Tessia who said friends and community helps her to just be the best that she can, and also peers, and also connecting with others. And then I think also there was what really harms, and most of us agreed there are some parts that harm us. That's being isolation, feeling ignored, feeling you're not being appreciated, and also just not being and being absent at the same time. And then what really connects is talking. You see, what really connects is willing to hold spaces for others, and also finding a community that just helps you to be in a space that is reflective, in a space that you let out yourself, you do whatever you want to do because you're just there and they understand you. Yeah, that's really amazing. That was really amazing. And I'm glad I was in your breakout room, Ak. Thank you so much.
Amazing, amazing, and thank you so much. Oh, we have Samson. We have people putting comments in the chat box. Anyone wants to unmute the microphone and speak? Samson, Samson, secret session indeed. We have Mufiwe. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I truly enjoyed that session. Thank you so much. T. Um, Aisha says it was great talking to you all. So, do we have any other person who wants to unmute their microphone and speak? For me, it was a beautiful session. With power project, basically discussing how
Dr. O, just to
Yeah.
pause you really quick, and I'm not quite sure if others are experiencing it. I can barely hear you. It is very, very, very low.
Oh, my
Oh, there you
apologies.
go. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I was in the session mostly with Youth Power Project, and I was privileged to have Sanvi and Kodat share a little bit about the work they were doing or they are doing at Youth Power Project, and just having everyone contribute. We had Rebecca, we had Samson, we had Sid, we just had Aisha. Very vast community. Rebecca from Nigeria, Sid from China, Aisha from Pakistan, Sanvi in the US, myself in Nigeria. Just having that whole global perspective regarding mental health education and how to incorporate it into traditional educational landscapes, and how we could build an international coalition of how to get these things done on that scale. So it was really insightful. I'm super excited for what the future holds. So I think I'm going to wait for 2 more minutes before we round up this entire session. So anyone who wants to share, and you're welcome to put in your LinkedIn in the chat box so that you can connect with each other. If you want to, you can put in your LinkedIn profile, your Instagram, your Twitter, sorry, your X, your thread, any social media platform you want to connect with people on. You can do that if you want. So still waiting. I can't see any hands up yet. I can't see any hands up yet. Okay. So I'm sure the guys who were in the session with letters to strangers, they had a fun and practical session, but none of them is willing to share their secrets with us, which is very unfair. I feel a bit jealous and left out, but I had an amazing session also, so I ain't jealous, guys. Unfortunately, I shared a little bit about what we had already. I should have kept that to myself also. So, not to take any much of our time again, I'm sure we've had an amazing time so far. I'm Dr. Oluwaferomi Omitoye, co-general chair of this fantastic event with Actelos Saint Amor. Thank you so much for being an amazing co-general chair. And as we are coming to the end of this 2025 for you page summit, I would be remiss if I don't mention a group of special people who have worked tirelessly for the past couple of months, about 5 to 6 months, working through various time zones, and bearing with having to have regular meetings. That will be starting with my co-general chair, Actelo St. Amor. Then we have Connor. Then we have Joanna. Then we have Judah. Then we have Alina. These guys have been, I know I haven't missed anybody out yet. So you guys have been so amazing, and I'd like to appreciate you guys. Please, if we could just, use the love emoji, the clapping emoji, you know, to appreciate them. And thank you guys so much for being a part of this and putting this fantastic event together. And then the next set of people I'm going to be appreciating are our speakers. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. We're super glad you were here for us, and we hope to collaborate much more in the future. And the next set of people we're thanking, or I'm going to be thanking, are our partners. We had Youth Move National, we had Youth Power Project, we had I Mind Malawi, we had Letters to Strangers, we had Mentally Resilient Youth Network. Thank you guys so much. We're super grateful, we're super excited, and I'm going to save the last thank you to every single person who participated in this event. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much. You guys contributing your insights. I like that this was a knowledge exchange. The panelists speaking and then you also contributing, because we recognize the fact that you all individually are youth mental health champions in your own right, in your communities. You do so much. You do a lot of work, and we're really grateful for the work you do. um, and we are so thankful that you decided to join us and be a part of this event. And then also, I'll just be mentioning that we're looking forward to the For You Page 2026 event next year. Details will be rolled out subsequently, but just keep your eyes peeled for further details. We're going to definitely be making calls for giving the opportunity for people to join in the event planning committee for next year. So if you're interested in pulling a beautiful event like this to gain the experience, the international exposure, etc., you're welcome to join that. And also, we're going to be sending you a couple of emails to get some feedback from you for how this event went. We want to consistently improve. We want to consistently improve, and we really love feedback from you. So over the next couple of days, we'll be rolling out some emails to just ask for your feedback and how the session went for you. So thank you guys so much. This year's event has been a huge success, and the theme is beyond awareness, taking action for youth mental health. One thing I want from this event, or one major takeaway I want for all of us who attended this event, was that we did not just come here to talk, and that was one of the major reasons why we made the breakout sessions not recorded, so we can have candid conversations amongst each other. Now, I'm really hoping that from these candid conversations, we're able to take in salient action points that we can implement in our community. Now, one of the major discussions that came up in one of my sessions was that I'm not licensed to be a therapist. I'm not licensed to be a clinical psychologist, but you are able to be a peer support advocate. You can be a peer support person. You can support people in your personal space. You can be a friend. Like they said, you can just be there for them. So that's taking a step in the right direction, and that shows that beyond awareness, each individual person can take action. It doesn't have to be advocating to 2,000 people, 20,000 people. It can be making the difference in the life of one single person, which is by being there for them. So we want you to leave this event with that fulfillment that I've got something, even if it is just one person I've reached out to. I've helped somebody and I've done my part. So if you want to if you have questions beyond this event, if you want to reach out, if you want to keep in touch, you can always send an email to hello@foryoupage.org. It will be put in the chat box shortly. Hello@foryoupage.org. Hello@foryoupage.org. So you can send questions, you can send inquiries. If you're interested in being a part of this project, you can always send an email to that email. Foryoupage.org is working on creating a community, and we definitely would let you know more. Since you signed up for this event, we are sort of in quotes obligated to give you some updates that might not be given to the entire general public at the time you are receiving it. So just watch out in your emails. We're going to be rolling out a couple of things. If you're interested in research, if you're interested in policy advocacy, if you're interested in having focus group discussions that would, that would help push further research and policy advocacy, just look out. And you can also send emails in advance to hello@foryouPage.org, and then we'll take the conversation further with you. So thank you so much. Since each and every one of the team members have not said something on the general platform, I would like to crave your indulgence and ask each and every member of the organizing team for this year's summit to say a quick hello to each and every one of us, and then we're going to close this event. So starting with my co-general chair, Tay, then you pass the buck to the next person you see on your screen.
Thank you. There's nothing left to say other than I love and appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here. This was honestly a joy. I'm sick. My computer broke, and y'all just gave me the most hope that I have felt in a very long time. Thank you for re-energizing me. Elena, please take it away.
I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our speakers. In fact, a lot of our speakers stayed up to join our panel. So if we can have a round of applause for our speakers, whether they are present in the room or not, they have my sincere gratitude, as well as our dear attendees who are attending from all over the world. You all have my thanks as well. You all showed up here on the weekend to join us and party and talk about mental health and all the aspects. It shows that all of us care to make a change. And I want to just remind us all, like, we shouldn't be all talk, and that's the goal of our session today. I want us to take the action points that Julia spoke about, that our partner sessions talked about, that our panelists talked about, and do something about it. We have all these contacts shared in the chat sessions. We have all these connections to be made. Reach out, collaborate, plan, take actions. This is the goal of our event. And I am thrilled and really excited to see what are the synergistic moments that comes out from this event. Thank you.
Connor?
Yeah, thank you guys. Sometimes I feel like when you are very passionate about something and sometimes it feels hard, it can be a very isolating, sometimes lonely experience. But being in the virtual space with people from all around the world, seeing the chat light up, all of the emojis, it really filled my cup. And now I feel like very excited to relax after this because it was a lot of work, but to look forward to the future with so much more hope. I'm really excited that we got to have this today.
Judah? Okay, Joanna?
Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry, I
Okay,
was
yeah,
muted.
Judah, we can hear you.
Oh yes, I'm very grateful for everyone who attended, and thank you so much for granting me the opportunity to organize such a beautiful event. Looking forward to more and looking forward to connecting with each and every single person who was at this event. Thank you so much, Dr. Awo.
Yeah, Joanna?
Thank you, everyone. I think it went so well that I didn't have much work to do. That's how well it went. It's the support. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And beyond awareness, I believe that in the next 1 year before the next event, we are all going to be taking serious action for youth mental health. Looking forward to hearing our progress stories, our growth journeys over the next 1 year after this event. And I look forward to, so many collaborations between people who met in this event. So looking forward to a lot of international collaborations and all the likes. So thank you so much. And this brings us to the end of Beyond Awareness Taking Action for Youth Mental Health, the For You Page event 2025. Special thanks to the Executive Director and Founder of For You Page, Max Wang. Thank you for being here throughout. And thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you next year.
Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
It was nice meeting you too.